The glass doors of the towering corporate building gleamed under the morning sun, reflecting the city's bustling chaos below. Cassandra Rain, CEO of Rain Industries, adjusted her designer blazer and took a slow, measured breath. Today was supposed to be routine, a board meeting, a few media calls, and a luncheon with investors. Nothing could prepare her for what was about to unfold. She barely noticed the janitor as he pushed his mop cart down the marble hallways. Most employees ignored him entirely, dismissing him as background noise in the luxurious rhythm of corporate life. But there was something strangely unassuming about him that piqued Cassandra's attention. He moved with precision, every step controlled, almost calculated, yet effortless. His dark eyes scanned the floor with a quiet intensity that didn't belong to someone wielding a mop. "Morning," she called out, half distracted by her schedule. "Morning, ma'am," he replied, his voice calm, steady, almost deliberate. There was no hesitation, no unnecessary inflection. Just a pure, focused acknowledgement of her presence. Cassandra shrugged, brushing it off as corporate fatigue. She had seen hundreds of faces, hundreds of employees, and yet there was something about this man that lingered in her mind, like a note struck in a silent room. By noon, Cassandra was in her office, juggling calls and presentations when disaster struck. The glass wall separating her office from the main atrium cracked with a loud, terrifying snap. A loose chandelier tile had fallen from the ceiling, sending sparks scattering across the floor. Panic erupted among her staff. Before anyone else could react, the janitor was there. In a blur, he pushed two assistants out of harm's way, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and smacked it against the loose tile, steadying it long enough to prevent a catastrophic fall. Cassandra froze, her eyes wide in disbelief. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked, calm as if nothing unusual had happened. She nodded, still shaken, unable to process the storm of adrenaline and fear crashing through her veins. I think so. Thank you." He gave her a faint nod, then quietly returned to his work, as if saving the CEO from potential death were just part of his daily routine. Cassandra couldn't shake the feeling that this man was hiding something far beyond a mop and broom. Over the next week, strange incidents kept occurring. A minor fire in the server room extinguished before anyone could react. A suspicious intruder spotted near the parking garage vanished before security even arrived. And every time, the janitor appeared, almost like a shadow, preventing disaster without fanfare. Curiosity gnawed at Cassandra. Who was he? And why did he seem trained, precise, almost like a soldier? She caught herself watching him more than she should, noting the way he moved, the way he assessed situations, the subtle way he carried himself. There was no doubt in her mind. This man was far more than a janitor. Then came the gala, the company's annual celebration of wealth, power, and prestige. Cassandra was preparing backstage when she saw him again, not mopping floors this time, but holding a tray of drinks. She noticed his posture, straight as a rifle barrel, eyes scanning the room like a hawk. Her breath caught. Something about him screamed discipline, vigilance, and danger. And somehow, against all logic, her heart skipped a beat. "Cassandra," a colleague whispered, "don't tell me you're thinking about him. He's just—" "Sure," she interrupted, almost instinctively. Her gaze hadn't left the janitor. There was something magnetic, something undeniably commanding in the way he stood among the chaos. And then it happened. A champagne glass toppled, spilling across the floor near the CEO podium. The guests gasped, slipping and sliding in surprise. But before anyone could react, the janitor was there, moving faster than humanly possible. He caught the falling glass, steadied a stumbling guest, and even managed a subtle redirect to prevent the champagne from staining the carpet. All of this without breaking his calm, unreadable expression. Cassandra's knees weakened. Who was this man? How could someone act like this, with such controlled reflexes, such perfect timing? Her mind raced. She knew then that life as she had known it, luxury, control, corporate dominance, was about to collide with a force entirely outside her understanding. As the gala continued, Cassandra found herself drawn to him. Not by his uniform or his station, but by the aura of mystery, the unmistakable skill beneath his humble exterior. He wasn't just a janitor. He was something else entirely. Something dangerous, disciplined, and terrifyingly alluring. Little did she know, behind the mop, the gloves, and the janitorial cart, he had lived a life that most could only imagine: elite missions, covert operations, and training that forged men into legends. And Cassandra, in her world of boardrooms and shareholders, was about to discover that love, like war, could come from the most unexpected of places. Cassandra couldn't shake the image of him from her mind, the janitor who moved with lethal precision, yet somehow seemed invisible to everyone else. It had been a week since the gala, and though the incident with the champagne had been minor, it had shaken her more than any boardroom battle ever could. Something about him drew her in, like a magnet pulling her into a world she didn't understand. That Monday morning, she spotted him again, mopping the marble floors in the executive wing. He worked quietly, almost mechanically, but she noticed tiny details others would have missed: the way his fingers twitched when no one was looking, the way his eyes scanned each corner of the room with unwavering focus. Cassandra felt a strange pang of curiosity mixed with admiration. "Can I ask you something?" she called out, forcing herself to sound casual. He straightened, nodding. "Of course, ma'am." Why are you so precise? So beware?" She hesitated, unsure how to phrase the feeling that had been nagging her all week. "It's like you see everything, but nobody notices you." He paused, considering her words. For a moment, the calm mask on his face faltered ever so slightly, and she thought she saw a flicker of something else, something deeper, almost hidden beneath layers of discipline. "It's just part of how I work," he said finally. "I've learned to stay prepared, to anticipate situations before they happen. It helps." Cassandra's mind raced. The words were casual, almost understated, but the truth behind them was anything but ordinary. The way he moved, the way he reacted in moments of crisis, this wasn't just preparation. This was training. Intensive, rigorous discipline training. "You've trained?" she asked, leaning closer, unable to contain her curiosity. His eyes met hers, steady and unreadable, in ways most people wouldn't understand. That was enough for Cassandra to realize that she had been underestimating him all along. Her heart pounded in a mix of excitement and fear. There was danger here, not just the kind found in boardrooms and stock markets, but real danger. And somehow, she was inexplicably drawn to it. Over the next few days, their interactions became subtle but frequent. He would appear just as something was about to go wrong: a spilled coffee, a malfunctioning printer, an irate client about to storm into her office, and quietly prevent disaster without fanfare. No one else noticed. No one else thanked him. But Cassandra did. She began to watch him, studying his movements, his expressions, even the way he carried his janitor's cart. There was a rhythm to his actions, a discipline that went far beyond ordinary skill. And then came the moment that changed everything. It was late evening. Cassandra had stayed behind to finalize a merger proposal. The office was empty, silent except for the hum of computers and the faint echo of her heels on the marble floor. She was so engrossed in her work that she didn't notice the shadow approaching until it was too late. A masked intruder emerged from the stairwell, a glint of metal in his hand. Cassandra froze, heart hammering in her chest. The intruder lunged toward her, and for the first time, she felt the raw, primal fear of being truly helpless. Before she could scream, the janitor appeared. In a blur of movement, he intercepted the intruder, twisting his wrist and disarming him with a precision that was terrifyingly beautiful. The man went down in seconds, subdued, without a single visible mark, and Cassandra's knees nearly buckled as the reality sank in. "Are you all right, ma'am?" he asked, calm as ever. His voice had that same steady authority, that unshakable presence that made her feel simultaneously terrified and safe. I think so," she whispered, her mind struggling to comprehend what she had just witnessed. What are you?" For the first time, he allowed a small, almost imperceptible smile. Someone who has lived a life you couldn't imagine. Someone who has had to be ready for anything, at any moment. Cassandra's pulse raced. The mystery of his past was no longer just an intriguing puzzle. She had seen a glimpse of it, and it terrified her in the most exhilarating way. He was more than a janitor. He was a man shaped by danger, by survival, by a world that existed far beyond her polished office walls. And yet, standing there in the quiet glow of the office lights, she felt something else stirring, a pull she couldn't deny. It was magnetic, overwhelming, a dangerous blend of fear and fascination. He had saved her life, yes, but more than that, he had shattered the carefully constructed barriers around her heart. That night, as she left the building, she found herself glancing back at him, mopping silently in the dim light of the empty hallway. He didn't look up, didn't acknowledge her, yet she felt his presence as strongly as if he were standing beside her. Cassandra realized, with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, that her life was about to change in ways she couldn't control. She had been drawn to him from the start unknowingly, and now she had seen the truth. The janitor wasn't just a man of skill and precision. He was a force of nature, a protector, a man whose past had forged him into someone extraordinary. And Cassandra Rain, CEO of one of the largest corporations in the country, was already dangerously, hopelessly drawn to him. The office had never felt more silent, or more dangerous. Cassandra's mind raced as she walked through the empty halls, replaying the events of the previous night over and over. Her heart still thumped from the adrenaline of seeing the janitor in action, subduing the intruder with a precision that had been almost terrifying. She couldn't get it out of her mind. The way he moved, the way he reacted, the way he seemed to anticipate every possible threat before it even happened. By mid-morning, she found herself staring out of her corner office window, unable to focus on the endless stream of reports, emails, and phone calls. Her thoughts kept drifting back to him, the janitor who had saved her life, the man who seemed to exist in a world she couldn't even begin to imagine. And then he appeared, quietly, as if sensing her gaze. He pushed his mop cart past her office without a word, his movements fluid and controlled, his eyes scanning the floor and the walls with the same intensity she had noticed weeks ago. There was something magnetic about him, something that drew her in despite the logical part of her mind that screamed to stay away. Cassandra knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. She needed answers. She needed to understand who he really was. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" she called out, stepping into the hallway as he approached. He stopped, paused, and nodded. "Of course, ma'am." His tone was calm, but she caught a hint of something else, something almost human beneath the disciplined exterior. "Last night what happened? That man, he could have killed me. And you." She hesitated, unsure how to phrase the combination of awe and fear swirling inside her. "You handled it like you were trained for it. Were you?" He studied her for a moment, and for the first time, Cassandra saw him hesitate. It was a brief flicker, almost imperceptible, but it was enough. "I've had training," he admitted finally. "Training most people wouldn't understand. And some experiences, well, let's just say they shape a person differently." Cassandra's heart skipped. There it was, the acknowledgement she had been waiting for, the first real glimpse into the life he had carefully hidden. She wanted to ask more, but something about the way he carried himself, the calm, unreadable strength, made her pause. She realized that there were parts of him she wasn't ready to face. And perhaps he wasn't ready to share. Over the next few days, their interactions became a delicate dance. He remained quiet, professional, almost invisible to everyone else, yet always present when she needed him most. Every time danger, or even minor chaos, arose, he appeared, anticipating the threat with an almost supernatural awareness. Cassandra began to understand that this man had lived a life of extremes, a life far removed from the luxury and control of her corporate world. One afternoon, a minor fire broke out in the building's server room. Smoke filled the corridor, alarms blaring. Employees panicked, stumbling toward the exits, but before anyone could react, he was there, calm, precise, methodical. He led the staff to safety, extinguished the fire, and assessed the situation with a quiet efficiency that left Cassandra both terrified and fascinated. Later, alone in her office, she found herself thinking about him in a way that made her cheeks burn. She wasn't just drawn to his skill, his strength, or even his mystery. She was drawn to the man beneath it all, the man who had spent his life protecting others, often in silence, always with discipline, always with purpose. And she knew, deep down, that she wanted to know him, not just the hero who saved her life, but the man he was when no one else was watching. That evening, she found herself lingering in the hallway as he finished his work. I want to understand, she said quietly, almost to herself. He looked at her then, truly looked, and for a brief moment, his mask of calm and control slipped. There was something raw in his gaze, something unspoken, something that hinted at a past filled with danger, sacrifice, and secrets too heavy for most to bear. Some things, he said slowly, are not easy to explain, and some truths are not safe to share. Cassandra felt a thrill run through her. There was danger here, yes, but also trust and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something she hadn't expected, something more than fascination, more than gratitude, something that could become love. In the days that followed, she couldn't stop herself from watching him, noticing the smallest details, the way his hands moved with purpose, the slight tension in his shoulders when he scanned the building, the quiet confidence in every step he took. It was intoxicating. She wanted to know every part of him, even the parts he refused to show, even the parts that could destroy her carefully ordered life. And deep down, she knew that meeting him wasn't just a chance encounter. It was fate, a collision of worlds that should never have crossed. A reminder that sometimes the greatest dangers and the greatest loves come in the most unexpected forms. Cassandra Rain, CEO, master of control and precision, realized something she had never felt before. She was utterly, completely, captivated by the janitor she had once ignored. And she had no idea just how extraordinary he truly was, or how much her life was about to change. Cassandra hadn't slept well in days. Her mind replayed every detail, the intruder, the fire, the way he moved, the calm authority he radiated even in life-threatening situations. She couldn't stop thinking about him, about the mystery that clung to him like a shadow. There was something she needed to know, and yet she feared the answer. The next morning, she arrived at the office early, determined to confront him, not in accusation, not in demand, but in curiosity, in need of understanding. She found him in the main hallway, quietly sweeping. He looked up, meeting her gaze with that same unreadable expression that had fascinated her from the start. "I need to ask you something," she said, her voice firm but hesitant. "About your past. I can't stop wondering who you really are." He paused mid-sweep, then set the broom down with deliberate precision. "Some things," he said slowly, "are better shown than explained." Before Cassandra could respond, the alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the marble floors. Panic erupted as employees scrambled toward the exits. Cassandra's stomach dropped. Another emergency? Another threat? Without hesitation, he moved. In a blur, he guided terrified staff toward safety, his every action precise, measured, almost rehearsed. Cassandra followed him, heart pounding, adrenaline surging, marveling at his skill. He moved like a man who had faced danger his entire life, like someone who had survived situations most people couldn't imagine. Once the building was secure, he finally turned to her. "Do you see now?" he asked. "Some things aren't just stories. They are experience, training, survival." Cassandra swallowed hard. She saw the weight in his eyes now, the unspoken memories, the life lived in shadows. "You've done things most people couldn't even dream of, haven't you?" He nodded, his jaw tight. "Things I cannot speak of. Things that shaped who I am. The janitor you see, he's just the cover. The man you would have to know is far more complicated, far more dangerous than you can imagine." Her heart raced, a mixture of fear and excitement. She realized she was no longer looking at the janitor who quietly swept floors. She was looking at a man forged by danger, discipline, and a lifetime of secrets. Over the next few days, small clues began surfacing. A newspaper clipping fell from a file he had been tidying. A photograph tucked behind an old bulletin board showed a younger version of him in military fatigues, surrounded by men whose faces were mostly hidden. Cassandra felt a thrill of discovery, coupled with an almost forbidden curiosity. The man she had come to trust, the man who had saved her life more than once, had a past far beyond the realm of her understanding. One evening, as the office emptied, Cassandra approached him again. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked softly. "Why hide this life?" He looked at her then, really looked at her, and she saw the faintest hint of a smile. "Because the world I came from isn't a world meant for sharing. It's dangerous, and anyone who knew the truth could be in danger themselves. Including you." Her pulse quickened. The danger wasn't just theoretical. It was real. And yet, she felt drawn to him more than ever. It wasn't just fascination. It wasn't just curiosity. It was something deeper, something undeniable. "Cassandra," he said, his voice low, deliberate, almost commanding, "you've seen enough to know that this life, my past, it's not simple. It's not safe. But if you choose to stay close, you must understand that danger will follow." Her breath caught. The thrill of fear mingled with an impossible attraction. She realized, with startling clarity, that she didn't care about the danger. She wanted to know him, all of him, the man behind the mop, the man behind the calm authority, the man forged by danger and secrecy. That night, alone in her apartment, Cassandra thought about him constantly. She thought about the way he moved, the way he saved lives without hesitation, the quiet strength that had captivated her from the beginning. And she realized something she hadn't admitted even to herself. She was falling for him. Falling for the janitor, yes, but also for the man he truly was, the man he had hidden behind his humble exterior. The next morning, she arrived at the office with a newfound resolve. She didn't know how or when she would ask him to trust her with the truth, but she knew one thing: she couldn't turn back. She couldn't unsee what she had witnessed. She couldn't ignore the pull she felt toward him. As she walked down the hallway, she saw him waiting near the elevators, quietly observing, calm as always. But this time, she didn't look away. She met his gaze and smiled, a small, tentative gesture of trust and connection. For the first time, he nodded slightly in return, as if acknowledging not just her presence, but her willingness to step into the world he had kept hidden. Cassandra Rain, CEO, master of control and precision, realized that her carefully ordered life was unraveling, not because of chaos in her company, not because of threats, but because of a man she had once dismissed as a janitor. A man who was, in truth, a warrior, a protector, a man whose past was as formidable as it was mysterious. And for the first time, she was ready to face it. The night had fallen over the city, casting long shadows across the skyline, and Cassandra Rain couldn't sleep. Her mind replayed every detail of the past weeks: the intruder, the fires, the near disasters, and the quiet moments when he had appeared at the right time, always calm, always in control. She had watched him save lives, prevent chaos, and move with a precision that defied belief. And she had fallen, for the janitor, yes, but for the man he truly was beneath the quiet exterior. She arrived at the office early, heart pounding, a strange mix of anticipation and fear coiling in her chest. The building was empty, eerily quiet, except for the faint echo of footsteps as he pushed his mop cart down the hallway. He looked up as she approached, his dark eyes meeting hers, steady, unreadable, commanding. "Cassandra," he said softly, his voice carrying that same quiet authority that had held her captive from the beginning. "You shouldn't be here. It's dangerous." "I know," she said, taking a deep breath. "But I need to understand. I need to know the truth. Who you really are." For a long moment he said nothing. Then, finally, he set down the mop and motioned for her to follow. She hesitated only briefly before stepping into the stairwell with him, the city lights flickering faintly through the tall windows as they descended into the basement. A place she had never seen, a place that seemed alive with secrecy. He led her to a small room hidden behind a storage area. Inside, weapons were carefully arranged on racks, training maps were pinned to the walls, and photographs documented a life Cassandra had never imagined. Men and women in military fatigues, helicopters, covert missions, images of a past that was as thrilling as it was terrifying. "This is all of this yours?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. He nodded. "I was part of an elite special forces unit. Operations that required precision, discipline, secrecy, skills that don't leave a man when he returns to civilian life. The janitor you see is a cover, a way to live quietly, without the world noticing." Cassandra's heart raced, her pulse quickening as she took in every detail. The calm, humble man she had trusted, who had saved her life more than once, was a warrior. A man trained to survive impossible situations, to anticipate danger, to act decisively when others faltered. "Why hide it? Why pretend to be this?" she asked, gesturing to the mop cart, the janitorial uniform. "Because the world isn't safe for someone like me," he said simply. "People who know the truth are targets. And I wasn't willing to put anyone in danger, especially not you." Her chest tightened. She realized, with a jolt, just how much he had protected her, not just physically, but emotionally, shielding her from a life of peril she couldn't have comprehended. And in doing so, he had allowed her to see glimpses of the man he truly was, one calculated, disciplined, and capable of incredible bravery. Cassandra stepped closer. "I don't care about danger. I don't care about your past or your secrets. I care about you. All of you." For the first time, she saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, a softness behind the steel. He took a step toward her, cautious, deliberate, as if measuring the risk of letting her in. "Cassandra, my life is complicated. Dangerous. You don't know what that means, what kind of enemies, what kind of risks if you're truly involved." "I understand more than you think," she said, reaching for his hand. Her fingers brushed his, and the tension between them became electric. "I'm not afraid. Not of you. Not of your past. Not of anything that comes with it. I trust you." A long silence followed. Then, slowly, he allowed himself to close the distance, his hand covering hers, firm and protective. "You have no idea what it means to trust someone like me," he admitted, his voice low, almost a whisper. "But I think I want you to try." And in that moment, everything changed. The janitor, the elite soldier, the man with a life full of secrets and danger, was no longer hiding behind mops and uniforms. Cassandra saw him, truly, fully, and he saw her. The woman who had challenged him, captivated him, and stood unafraid at the edge of his world. Their lips met, first hesitantly, then with a force born of weeks of tension, fear, and unspoken desire. In that kiss, the barriers they had both built, hers around trust, his around secrecy, began to crumble. When they finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers, breathing steady now, the weight of the world still present but somehow lighter. "Cassandra," he said, almost reverently, "you don't know the half of it. There's a life I've lived, battles fought, missions completed, sacrifices made. But now I want to share it with you. All of it." She smiled, a mix of love, awe, and exhilaration. "Then start with me," she whispered. "I'm ready. Every part of you, every secret, every danger. I'm ready." For the first time, the janitor allowed himself to truly believe it. The man who had lived in shadows, the soldier who had fought battles no one could imagine, finally had someone willing to stand beside him. And Cassandra, the CEO who had once thought she controlled everything, realized that love, the kind that could save and transform, was something no strategy, no power, no preparation could ever predict. Outside, the city lights twinkled, indifferent to the extraordinary moment unfolding in the basement of Rain Industries. But inside, two worlds collided, danger and desire, mystery and trust, past and present. And in that collision, something new was born, a love that was fearless, unstoppable, and entirely unexpected. Cassandra Rain and the janitor, elite soldier, protector, hero, had found each other. And neither would ever be the same again.